Now what happens with cost caps, which is really important to understand, let's say that I have $1,000 a day budget, okay? And with that budget that I have set aside, let's use that same example that I have a $100 cost per result goal, okay? That's my cost cap right there. Now, what ends up happening is if there are auctions available in that range for me to participate in, I'll spend the full daily budget. If there are not enough auctions that the platform sees that I can participate in with that cost per result goal, I'm not going to be able to spend the full amount of daily budget, which means I'm then going to need to increase my cost per result goal a little bit. Very simple concept to understand, but again, when you start using cost caps, this is something you want to be mindful of because there is a high probability, give or take where you set your cost per result goal initially, that you're going to need to bump it up a little bit. Cost per result goals are also really good because they allow you to scale rapidly. One thing that I love as an example, let's say that I'm willing to spend $10,000 a day on a budget, right? And same example, let's say that I have a $100 cost per result goal. And let's use the example that I'm not spending that full amount per day, okay? So let's say that in this example, out of the total days spend, it's only burning about $5,500, okay? So that means that I have about $4,500 that could have been spent that wasn't spent in that example, okay? Now, that means that I have to increase this a little bit, okay? So when you come down to your financial modeling that you should be doing by now, you got your Google sheet with your model in it, whatever the fuck you're using, I can then go back to my model and I can just adjust my cost per result up a little bit and see what that does to every statistic that follows in terms of ROAS, collected dollars per book call, whatever it is that you're running traffic to. I can see how that additional cost, whether it be a cost per webinar registrant, a cost per purchase, a cost per call, a cost per whatever. I can go to my financial model and I can predict and control with a lot more influence when I'm using cost caps and model it out ahead of time to determine profitability. So let's say that in this example, right, the next day happens, okay? I bumped in this example, my cost per result go up a little bit. I have a $10,000 a day budget. I went into my handy dandy financial model and I determined that I could tolerate as high as about $150 cost per result. Okay, so I go in there and I set my cost per result goal, my cost cap to $150. Okay, now in this example, let's say that it's spent $9,000. Okay, so that means that in this model, I still have about $1,000 left over. So I still am not spending my total daily budget that I gave the system. And that also implies that I still need to bump my cost cap higher, and my cost per result is obviously going to go up from doing that. But at that point, I would know I'm probable to get my full daily spend off. This is a way to easily control and influence costs without having to endure the randomness of what an automated bidding system would otherwise do. In addition to that, some of you may be tolerable with this kind of setup where, yeah, it's not going to spend the full daily budget, but it's going to get you the cost per result that you're trying to get in. And hey, some days it'll spend a little more, some days are worse and it'll spend a little less. You're not going to get the full amount off per day, but hey, you found a ceiling that you're willing to stay within. And maybe as that audience size increases, or maybe as the models that determine the auction bidding system ranges, maybe that changes and loosens up a little bit. More people become available. So some days you spend more, some days you spend less. The point I'm trying to make is with cost caps, I get to control and influence where my cost per result's probable to land. And because of that, I get to financial model everything out and I get to determine ROAS ahead of time with a lot more predictability, influence, and control.